What's up, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I am your information faucet for Nootropics, Ryan Michael Ballard. We're going to talk about ketosis and nootropics to take while you're in ketosis to maximize that state. I'm going to give you a quick preface on my cautionary note on ketosis. For those of you that know, I did this before like Dave Asprey was talking about it, before the paleo community made it a thing, and before it was even cool in the biohacker community. This was 6 or 7 years ago, and then thereafter, through multiple experimentations, I was doing this. And so we'll talk about that, but predominantly how to get nootropics to work better in that state, basically trying to piggyback off of the neurochemistry that's sort of taking place behind ketosis. But let's do a minute of Product Pro and discuss the Cortex Stack. Okay, guys, this weekend, Cortex Stack still $29.99. This is our powerful pre-made stack. If you want a nootropic stack that you can take at 20 to 30 minutes later, for some people it onsets in 15 minutes. It's just like a switch goes on and you are in and you are ready to get work done and your brain is firing on all cylinders. Get the Cortex Stack, livecortex.com, link is in the description below. If you truly want to have the best nootropic stacks to experiment with on the planet, we've got 3 digital guides where we break them all down. The new Pept Pro Stack List, the Smarter, Better, Faster guide, and the Racetam God Guide. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. Those are digital guides. Super cheap, and you can download them today. Lastly, we do nootropics consulting. It's a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences. Get everything, all that stuff at livecortex.com. Okay, so here's the preface on ketosis. Here's the sort of cautionary note. Again, I experimented with ketosis before it was even cool, before the biohacking community was doing it, and before anyone was really talking about it. This is years ago. I came to learn that for my body that there is no such thing as the low-carb flu or keto adaptation. It's basically, look, fat adaptation is a real thing. But it is not a good thing, and it's only, I think a lot of folks are going to find, I think a lot of folks might be like silently agreeing with me, grudgingly agreeing with me, that those good, solid, functional states, which are driven mainly by increases in catecholamine neurotransmitters and not necessarily exclusively by ketones as fatty acids, as fuel substrates for the brain, it's a short period, right? A lot of the studies we see on ketosis are short-term. Long-term ketosis, this is not my opinion. This is my final judgment after years of experimentation and many, many, many years of research, almost a decade. Long-term ketosis is not good for most folks. Now, I get there's some folks that might benefit from it, Alzheimer's, etc., because of glucose utilization issues, and I'm not referring to those people, but active people, weightlifters, runners, etc., you don't want to constantly be in ketosis. You can switch in and out. You should really do, if you want to inform yourself on this, one way to inform yourself is to go listen to the recent Joe Rogan podcast with Chris Kresser, who's a pretty, I would consider him an expert in some of this stuff, where he talks about, how his blood markers change on ketosis, in ketosis, and how things are basically great for a honeymoon period, and then it gets terrible thereafter. He's got to bring back the carbs. That's not a low carb flu. This isn't just a temporary state in which your body's kind of just getting used to it. All that is true. You are getting used to using fatty acids for fuel, but those are the first signs that you need to bring the carbs back in. It is a temporary state to be in at best, and it is a very useful state. I don't want to say like I'm downplaying it, because I felt the brain performance from ketones, and it is magnificent. There's nothing quite like it, actually. It is very, very powerful. But over time, there's research to suggest, and this, frankly, this happened to me. I had to go reverse it, that, basically metabolic switching is going to start doing wonky things like making your body train to use like highly inefficient energy sources, not just fatty acids, but amino acids, things like glutamate, to fuel cell mitochondria. It's going to downregulate glucose functionality or the capacity to use glucose. For some folks, it's going to induce insulin resistance, which is a fucking bad idea. Okay, reversible more than likely, but a bad idea. That's my preface. We can argue on a different platform for those of you that don't agree. But again, remember, I was dogmatic and for the ketogenic diet before the biohacking community even talked about it, and then I realized some of the downfalls. And by the way, if you truly want to understand some research that should have you back off if you want to do it every day, again, temporary ketosis, totally awesome, right? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, totally awesome. Get some good brain performance, get some productivity, get back, make sure you're fueling your mitochondria with carbohydrates. But go read the research on metabolic switching and diseases like fibromyalgia, where basically a buildup of lactate is happening in the muscles and causing diseases, among other things, and then coupled with a mitochondrial deficiency from exactly this, from using fatty acids as a fuel source in metabolic switching. Okay, you don't want to go there. That's my cautionary note. I have to be responsible. Any dogmatic, like, negative responses, I guarantee I know more than you about the subject, okay? Email me at ryan@cortex.com if you really want to argue about it. But again, 2 to 3 weeks, totally fine, right? A week, totally cool. Just like, they go into ketosis for a week or two, you know what I mean? Not enough to truly damage their gut microbiome, which happens when you starve it of fiber and carbohydrates, and they get performance. It's like you get in, you get the performance, you get out. You get in, you get the performance, you get out, those sorts of things. While you're in, there's a few things that underlie the ketotic state, and that's, you're using fatty acids to fuel the mitochondria of your brain cells. Okay, so, the best nootropic, in my opinion, to take in that particular state to facilitate better brain function, to piggyback off of the ketotic state, is acetyl L-carnitine. Acetyl L-carnitine does exactly that. Okay, that is one of the mechanisms by which your body breaks down these fatty acids and shuttles them into brain cells to use for fuel. It basically takes L-carnitine and then does that. But acetyl L-carnitine is a bioavailable version of it, crosses into the brain via the blood-brain barrier and really facilitates that process. Okay, so 300 to 500 milligrams of L-car, maybe more depending on where you're at. That's going to be awesome if you're in ketosis. The next strategy would be, and like really, really take heed here and just be careful with this, because this is you could go way overboard on the stimulation because you're cranking up the neurotransmitters that both being in ketosis does and is the end result of this nootropic. And that is to take 300 to 500 milligrams of LTyrosine when you're in ketosis. Okay, one of the things that ketosis does is it cranks up norepinephrine and noradrenaline, and I'm quite sure the mechanism for this has to do with gluconeogenesis, the process of converting a protein to glucose in the in the liver, and then ketosis in general really is cellular starvation. So you are turning on basically fight or flight hormones in this regard, right? Epinephrine, norepinephrine, and so to get that's not always a bad thing though. Again, you got to put it in context, right? You could get those are great brain performance states right there. I mean, there's just no question. Starvation is a great brain performance state if used correctly. And so with 300 to 500 milligrams of L-tyrosine, you piggyback off of that effect. I mean, this is a true biohack. And you supply the brain with epinephrine and norepinephrine as well as dopamine, and you truly turn on like a highly energetic, highly alert, a highly speed of processing sort of, brain state. And it's totally insane. I mean, it is like, if you really want to feel what it feels like to be firing on all cylinders, again, it might be way too stimulatory for some folks, so take heed, take the dosage down, do whatever you got to do. Try that dose. And then the third suggestion that I would suggest to really get the benefits of the ketotic state while you're in it, hopefully doing just temporary stints to try to get the benefits, try to engage in autophagy. Look, I know the terminology, I've been there, I understand the benefits. Autophagy is cellular recycling and these sorts of things, which are necessary and are pretty good. Then basically a combination of medium dosing L-car and tyrosine is where you want to be. So maybe shoot for 250 milligrams L-car, 250 milligrams tyrosine, and then take it and see how you feel. And then once you're ready to get out of ketosis, like if you're doing it for a week, if you're doing it for 2 weeks or something, once you're ready to get out of it, basically don't take the L-car anymore, because the L-car will continue to decrease. There's studies suggesting it'll continue to decrease glucose utilization. It'll certainly continue to try to upregulate fatty acid usage, and you want to try to switch back to using glucose at that point. The main caution I want to say to folks is you don't want your body to get so far on the other end to where it starts going, we're just going to upregulate all these pathways for fatty acid metabolism for mitochondria and downregulate all the pathways for glucose, okay? So thereafter, get back into things that might allow glucose to function better in the brain, like perhaps piracetam or something, right? And I think there's many other compounds, biotin, and then there's thiamine, maybe solbutiamine would do the same thing, etc. But those are 3 solid strategies that you could use nootropics, while getting the benefits of the ketosis state if you're doing it for short-term stints. And I hope that's been helpful. Thanks for watching. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching the video. Thanks for being with me. Ryan Michael Balla here. Check it out. These 4 are our powerful nootropic products. So start from the top. You're going to want to hear this. Number 1, the Cortex stack. That is our powerful pre-made stack. This is the stack you want to take if you want to get work done. Let me just be serious with you. I created that stack running a company 18 hours a day to get my brain to have massive verbal fluency, total motivation, right? Total overall mental fluidity, lots of mental energy, lots of drive to work. I mean, entrepreneurs need brain performance. We created that stack for people that really, really need brain performance and ain't messing around. The Cortex stack, get it at livecortex.com. You will love that stack. Those digital guides, we'll start from the Racetam God Guide. That guide is a digital stack list of some of the most highly effective brain state specific Racetam stacks on the planet. I mean, basically you're getting oxiracetam, piracetam, aniracetam, phenylpiracetam, coliracetam, fasiracetam, nefiracetam, pramiracetam stacks, very powerful stacks of all those racetams laid out in that guide. The New Pep Pro stack list is a giant list of sublingual, oral, and nasal new pep stack. So we've got just myriads of lists of very specific, very surgical new pep stacks that are highly effective, time tested. I mean, you take one of those stacks, your brain turns on, you will thank me. That thing is digital too. These are all digital, downloaded at livecortex.com. And then lastly, Smarter, Better, Faster is a digital guide that teaches anybody that's within the 1 to 2 range, 2-year range of taking nootropics, how to take nootropics, how to think about taking nootropics, how to use nootropics surgically to really get optimal brain performance, to totally dominate the realm of nootropics. It gives you very many stacks, my favorite stacks, everything from modafinil, caffeine, theanine protocols to aniracetam, microdosing protocols to uridine, ALA, Alcar, choline stacks to basically everything else in between them. If you want the most powerful stacks on the planet, you want my personal stacks and my personal philosophy on taking nootropics, get the Smarter, Better, Faster guide. Get all these guides. Get all of this good nootropic stuff at livecortex.com. We make elite level nootropic products for elite level nootropic players. Are you one of them? Let's find out. livecortex.com. Make it happen. Thanks for being with me.